Ever feel like you're kind of stuck in this financial maze, like just going around in circles with all these bills and this debts? Like, how did I even get here, But hey, that's what today's deep dive is all about. We're talking about finding that clear path to, actually feeling financially free. And we're using the fastest way to get out of debt as our guidebook for this journey. And the best part is I've got an expert right here with me to help us navigate.
Yeah, it's something so many people struggle with for sure. But the good news is there are some tried and true strategies that can make a world of difference.
That's reassuring to hear. And speaking of strategies, one of the first things our source emphasizes is, you guessed it, budgeting. I know. It's not the most thrilling topic. It's kind of like, flossing, you should do it, but it's not exactly a party, right?
Right.
But this source claims that folks who actually budget are, get this, twice as likely to actually ditch that debt for good. So it's not just about pinching pennies. It's about really taking the reins, right?
Exactly. It's about control. Think of it like this. If you were going on a road trip, you wouldn't just hop in the car and just start driving with no plan, right? You'd look at a map, figure out where you're going to stop, make sure you have enough gas in the tank. Budgeting, that's your financial map. It helps you see where your money's going, where you might be going a little off track, and just make sure you've got enough in the tank to reach your destination, which is, in this case, freedom from debt.
I love that. A roadmap, not a straitjacket. Because so many people think of budgets as this restrictive thing, but it's really about awareness, right?
Yeah.
Making conscious choices about where your money's going. Now, our source also stresses this pit stop we all need to make, hitting pause on those credit cards. Why is that so crucial in this whole debt payoff journey?
Well, it really comes down to interest rates. Imagine you're trying to climb out of a hole, but every step you take, the hole gets a little bit deeper. That's kind of what high interest debt does, right? Those charges, they pile up so fast and can feel like this massive weight holding you back.
It's like trying to outrun a debt monster, but it just keeps getting bigger. Speaking of taking charge, I was really interested in how our source talks about negotiation. Is it really possible to negotiate lower interest rates? Because I feel like that's something people don't even think about doing.
It's more common than you might think, actually. Creditors, they'd rather keep you as a customer, even if it means, making a little less profit. It's in their best interest to work with you, especially if you show them you're serious about, paying back what you owe. So they might be willing to lower your interest rate, maybe waive some fees, or even set up a payment plan that's, actually manageable.
So it's about having those honest conversations, right? Seeing if there's any wiggle room. Now, what about this whole concept of debt consolidation? I feel like I've heard that term thrown around a lot, but I'm not even sure I fully get it. Our source mentions it as a possible strategy, so when does that usually come into play?
Imagine you're juggling a bunch of different things, each with a different weight, different speed. That's kind of what it's like managing multiple debts. Debt consolidation, it's like bringing all those things together into one, making it a little easier to handle. And often you can even get a lower fixed interest rate, so it can really simplify your finances. And over time, you might even save money on all those interest payments.
Okay, so it's about streamlining those debts and hopefully snagging a better interest rate while you're at it. That makes a lot of sense. What about someone who's listening and thinking, look, my income right now, it's barely covering the minimum payments I already have. The source talks about boosting your income, which I know isn't always easy.
Yeah.
It's like you're stuck, needing to make more, but not really having the time or the energy to start a whole new career on top of everything else. So does this source offer any practical tips for finding ways to boost your income? Especially when you're already feeling stretched thin?
You're right. It's not always about making some big career jump. Sometimes it's just about finding those little, side hustles or income streams that kind of fit into your life as it is now. Could you do some freelance work using skills you already have? Maybe turn a hobby into a little side business. Even just selling stuff you don't use anymore around the house, that can free up a bit of cash flow and give you a little breathing room in your budget.
It's about being resourceful, right? Spotting those opportunities, even if they seem small at first. Let's say someone listening has managed to free up a little extra cash each month. How do they decide which debt to put it towards first? Our source mentioned something called the avalanche method. What's the deal with that?
Okay, so picture an avalanche, right? The biggest, heaviest chunks of snow, those are the ones that come crashing down first. Well, this method, it's all about tackling your highest interest debt first. You throw any extra money you can at that one while still making those minimum payments on your other debts. And once that high interest debt is out of the way, you move on to the next one. You're clearing a path through that avalanche one chunk at a time.
So it's about strategically going after the debt that's costing you the most in interest, right? Kind of like a divide and conquer approach. Now, I know we touched on balance transfers earlier as a way to like outmaneuver those high interest rates, but how does that actually work?
So a balance transfer, it's almost like hitting the pause button on those crazy high interest rates, at least for a little bit.
Yeah.
A lot of credit card companies, they offer these intro periods where you get zero interest or like really low interest when you transfer your balance over. So it gives you some breathing room to really make a dent in that debt without the interest charges piling up even more.
Like a temporary break from that interest rate roller coaster.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So beyond these kind of strategic moves, our source talks about the importance of something that, let's face it, most of us dread, cutting back on expenses.
Yeah.
But it doesn't have to feel like you're, depriving yourself.
Right. Definitely not. It's not about making these huge, drastic changes to your lifestyle or like never letting yourself enjoy anything. It's more about shifting your mindset, I think. Moving from that feeling of, can't spend money to, okay, I'm choosing to be more mindful about where my money's going. So maybe you try cooking at home more instead of ordering takeout all the time. Or you find some free or cheap entertainment options instead of, dropping a ton of cash on going out. It's usually those small, consistent changes that add up over time without you feeling like you're missing out.
It's about finding those areas where you can trim the fat without feeling like you're on a starvation diet, right? Now, one thing I really appreciated in this source is that it encourages people to reach out for professional help if they need it. Like we call plumbers when the sink's broken and we take our cars to the mechanic. So why is there this weird stigma around getting help with financial stuff?
Yeah, it's such a shame that stigma exists because money stuff can feel so isolating, and there's absolutely zero shame in talking to an expert, someone who deals with this kind of stuff all the time. Think of it like having a financial coach in your corner, someone who can give you personalized advice, be supportive, and keep you accountable as you're working towards those debt-free goals.
It's like having that expert in your corner, cheering you on and giving you that tailored game plan. So for someone who's feeling overwhelmed, who are some of the pros they could reach out to? Like, where do you even start?
There are actually a few different options depending on what you need. Credit counselors, for example, they really specialize in helping people create realistic budgets, figure out debt management plans, and even negotiate with creditors on your behalf. They might be able to get your interest rates lowered or work out a better monthly payment plan.
So they're kind of like a go-between, helping you navigate those tough conversations.
Exactly. And then you have financial advisors who take more of a big picture approach, offering more comprehensive financial planning and even investment advice. They can help you build a really solid foundation for, long-term financial well-being.
So it's about finding the support that aligns with your situation and your goals. Now, before we wrap up our deep dive into the fastest way to get out of debt, something that really stuck with me from this source was the importance of staying motivated throughout this whole process. Any final tips for, keeping that momentum going, especially when those debt-free dreams feel super far away?
Sometimes just visualizing your goals can be so powerful. Like, don't just think about being debt-free in this abstract way. Really create a picture in your mind of what your life will actually look and feel like when you achieve that. How will it feel to have that peace of mind? What will you do with that freedom? Visualizing that future can be such a powerful motivator, especially when things get tough.
It's about tapping into that emotional why, right? Like that deeper reason behind why you want to be debt-free in the first place.
Exactly. And don't underestimate celebrating the small wins. Break down your big debt goals into smaller, more manageable milestones. And when you hit those milestones, allow yourself to celebrate. Progress, not perfection, remember.
It's about recognizing how far you've come and using those small victories to fuel your motivation to keep going. Speaking of motivation, our source leaves us with this thought-provoking question, something for our listeners to ponder. So spill it. What's the big question we should be asking ourselves?
All right, get ready. It's, if you could, snap your fingers, right? Poof, no more debt. What would your life actually look like?
Ooh, I like that. Because it's not just about being debt-free, it's about what that freedom lets you do.
Exactly. It helps you connect with the why behind all this.
Yeah.
So, would you travel more? Finally start that passion project you've been putting off? Just feel more at peace. Having that vision, that picture of what's possible, it can really keep you going, especially when it gets tough.
It's like having a mental snapshot.
Right.
That image of what you're working towards.
Totally. And while we might not have magic wands, the things we've been talking about today, those strategies, they're like your toolkit. They're how you build that debt-free life step by step. It takes work, yeah, but with the right support, you can make it happen.
It's like we've got the map, and sure, there might be some detours or roadblocks along the way, but at least we've got the directions now, right?
And you don't have to go it alone. Remember, there's help out there. Experts who can guide you, resources you can tap into, and tons of people who know exactly what you're going through.
It's about taking that first step, even if it's small, and then celebrating each win along the way.
Absolutely, because that feeling of financial freedom, that empowerment and possibility, that's worth fighting for.
Couldn't agree more. So, to everyone listening, you got this. Start building that debt-free future one step at a time. And until next time, keep diving.